just being very careful because the speed limit on pit road is 110 miles an hour. You hit 115 and they are going to bring you in for a stop-and-go penalty. Bobby Unser, a stop-and-go here can really cost you because it means that it's going to put you easily a lap behind the race. So now we are at lap 85 in the Michigan 500. Mansell is the leader.
This track back is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford lately? In IndyCar racing, weight saving is of a premium, and the crews will work very hard just to save a pound or two on the chassis, but there is an area that they can save 40 whole pounds in one fell swoop. This is a cast iron standard brake rotor that can be replaced with a carbon fiber brake rotor, and if you add in carbon fiber pads, you can save a total of 40 pounds. Another advantage of a carbon rotor is since it's one solid piece of carbon, it has less of a tendency to explode at very high speed. There is, however, a few disadvantages. This carbon system costs $6,000, which is 3 times as much as the standard system. And so therefore, IndyCar has banned the use of carbon brakes in all racetracks with the exception of the high-speed tracks of Indianapolis and Michigan. Now there is another drawback, and that is that you have to warm up carbon brakes first before they work. So on a high-speed oval, if you go for the brakes, they may not be there. Most teams will opt on the high-speed tracks for the carbon system, even though it's more expensive, and then remind the driver, make sure you warm up those brakes before you come in for that first pit stop.
Back at Michigan, Emerson Fittipaldi into the pits again, Gary Gerould.
Paul, this is the 4th time that he's been in the last 18 laps. They came in thinking there was a problem with the rear of the car. They changed tires, routine service didn't address it. They've changed cross weight, they've changed suspension parts. They're adjusting everything they can, changing tires each time. Car's not working. Emo is not a happy season points leader. They think, however, maybe this time it'll be better.
Of course, what it's doing having an impact on his championship. The Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company has dispatched its blimp, the Spirit of Akron, to hover overhead our aerial views here today coming from that blimp. The Goodyear blimp is a familiar sight over major events such as this one. And Fittipaldi, obviously with his problems, is now well behind in the points fight. And Nigel Mansell, should the race end as they stand now, is back into the points lead. Robbie Gordon, Arie Luyendyk, they battle. It's a battle for 4th.
If all those changes they did on Emo doesn't fix his car, he'll come in, Paul. There's Luyendyk slowing down for something. He'll come in because they all know they made some drastic changes there. Both staggered the tire, took all the front wing out, or a whole bunch of it. That doesn't fix it. They'll come in knowing that there's something in the car broken.
I'll be slowed down or just perspective because Luyendyk is staying in pursuit of Robbie Gordon. They are 1 lap behind the leaders, battling for 4th place. Again, the top of the order, Mansell, Boesel, Mario Andretti. Mario, despite that spin in the pits, but he is very close to being put a lap down by his teammate, Nigel Mansell.
Robbie Gordon, one of the 8 men who started this race that had not raced here before. 1/3 of the field had not raced here before. And neither had Lyn St. James, by the way.
Cars out of the race. Jeff Wood with handling, Buddy Lazier with oil pressure, Stefan Johansson with a crash, and Lyn St. James is also out, Jack LaRue.
That's right, Paul, the Spirit of the American Woman, and we understand that this is your last race for this year only.
Glad you got that right. Yeah, only for this year. You know, we probably had the best race of my career going. The JCPenney Spirit of the American Woman Nike car was running so good. I mean,
well, what put you out?
It's electrical. We checked all the external electrical, all the switches and everything. They all check out fine, so it's something internal, but it just makes you hungrier for next year.
How do you answer your critics, Lyn? You know, a lot of people said that you maybe didn't push the button as hard as you could have this year.
I was pushing the pedal as hard as I could without putting it in the wall and doing something stupid. So I got a learning curve to go through, and I need time in a car, and that's what we're going to do in the off-season and do some testing and get ready to come back strong next year.
And Paul, we'll see her next year.
Jack, she's expecting to have some surgery on an elbow,
right.
Isn't she?
You know, Lyn, we understand the off-season. You may have to undergo the knife and have some surgery. What's the situation there?
Yeah, this Thursday I'm going to have arthroscopic surgery on my right elbow. My pitching arm has got a little problem, so Dr. Andrews down at Alabama Sports Medicine Clinic and HPI and Daytona Beach and Jerry Trammell have all worked together so it's working out from a time standpoint. I can get it done, get rehab, and get back to driving. driving in the off-season.
And watch her next year. She'll be back.
And Trammell's working on her, no problem.
You know, she said something very candid the other day. She said, I really did underestimate IndyCar racing. And I think that IndyCar racing in some ways has underestimated her. She's extremely determined and more talented than her occasional appearances in this first year have allowed her to show. I'm glad she'll be back.
Mario Andretti just passed by Nigel Mansell. Mario runs third, so now only 2 cars, Nigel Mansell and Raul Boesel, run on the lead lap. And Boesel is 31 seconds behind, so he'll appear in the windscreen of Mansell's car very shortly.
Well, Mansell right here, Paul, is the guy that theoretically didn't like this racetrack when he got here, said nothing but bad things about it. And look at the guy, just totally dominating, running away with the race.
Averaging 186 miles an hour now. Nigel Mansell, the leader. There have been 3 lead changes, but the battle has been between Nigel and his teammate, the pole sitter, Mario Andretti. 1 caution for Stefan Johansson's accident, and Buddy Lazier, Lynn St. James, and Jeff Wood all out of the race, as we mentioned just a moment ago. And Mansell is just carving through this field like a hot knife through butter.
You know, on the tires here, like for example, Johansson probably ran over something and popped the tire, Paul, but they don't have liners or inner liners in them like the stock cars do. So if they have any debris on the track and run over it, it's an instant blowout. Even though it's a cut in the tire, it's a blowout to the handling.
Well, Bobby, if it is that, why don't they have them?
It causes too much heat. And they would just generate too much heat, and they would have to almost go to a stock car type tire, and that just is not what IndyCar racing is all about.
Well, you saw the pass there. That was Raul Boesel that just disappeared in his rearview mirrors, and so Nigel Mansell runs alone a full lap ahead of the rest of the race.
The car he's passing right now is Bobby Rahal, the defending IndyCar champion. The once and future IndyCar champions perhaps running close together. It certainly looks as if Nigel Mansell taking a tremendous lead in the points if he is able to keep this lead in the race here today over Emerson Fittipaldi. Then there would be just 6 races left to go, and he might very well have a stranglehold on the championship.
You know what I find is so fascinating, that where one would presume Mansell would have had an opportunity is, once again, here we watch Robbie Gordon and Arie Luyendyk. Their continuing battle, and Arie gets past Robbie Gordon there. Again, Hiro Matsushita key in the battle. Oh, and here comes Gordon right back. We'll stay on this one for a minute.
Now, he just used Matsushita's hair to get a good draft right by Luyendyk. Luyendyk should have lined up behind Matsushita right there. He made a little bit of mistake, but Gordon, hey, that kid's learning pretty quick, Paul.
I was going to suggest to you that Nigel Mansell, with his background in road racing, one would expect that he would have really surged ahead during the series of road races they've just come off of. Now here we are on a super speedway. He's got a lap on the full field, and another oval to expect at Loudon next week.
Yeah, and of course after that, a bunch of road races. I think the real issue had been the superiority of the Penske chassis. Here comes Luyendyk setting up Matsushita, easily moving by. Luyendyk's been blowing a little hot and cold today, seeming fast at one point, then he'll pedal out of it and not be fast for a few laps.
Yeah, and back on Mansell, what Paul was talking about, Sam, is it's just amazing that a guy that came from road racing, never did an oval track in his life, and he's really dominating more and going faster on the ovals than he does on the road circuits. And I think that's amazing, but it's a very similar thing to happen to this guy, Arie Luyendyk.
There's no question that Mansell is very special. Arie, traveling alone on the circuit now, occupies alone 5th place. Started 3rd, was in that early battle, and then fell backwards, fell well back, and has now come back to 5th. But this is a position that he's fallen back to after being passed by Robbie Gordon for 4th. So the Michigan 500 now with 105 as Nigel Mansell clicks across the stripe. Laps into the record book. 500 miles, the total distance, 250 laps. In the pits, they watch their cars. It's quiet for the moment, but very soon it will get very busy here once again. We'll be back with more. Back at the Michigan 500, you're looking at the new second-place car. Just seconds ago, Mario Andretti forced his way past Raul Boesel and moved into second place, 1 lap behind his teammate, the leader, Nigel Mansell. Nice smooth pass. Boesel was holding off as hard as he could, but Mario was not to be denied.
Mario's back working, handling pretty good again. I watched him go by Leyendijk and did it on the high side, entering a turn and through the turn. Quite an achievement. It means he's really handling good.
On board with the leader. Let's take a look at that pass. Here was Mario setting up Boesel just ahead of him.
There he's getting a good draft. Now watch that draft really sucking him by. There, right. Whoa. Look at there. Now, you just wonder about passing on the outside right there, but there he goes right on by. Hopefully, Boesel doesn't move over it.
But you can see, I mean, Boesel is a guy you can trust, and Mario knows that, and he was able to make that pass.
This is Arie Luyendyk and Robbie Gordon. They continue a battle for fourth place. Look at Arie as he cuts down to the inside.
Now the story here would be that Robbie Gordon is losing in the corners because he doesn't have a helmet strap on. His head gets tired. Nobody can hold him up in the turns without it.
Now, there are a couple guys with problems. Let's start with Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, Bobby Unser is absolutely right. He broke the helmet strap. Now, what the helmet strap does is hold your head erect with a strap that goes under your armpit. You see the work going on in the A.J. Foyt pit right now. They are fashioning a special cushion that they will wedge between the helmet and the right side of the car. Now, he radioed in, Robbie Gordon did, to A.J. Foyt, the buffeting is so bad I can't keep my head up. He is having a problem focusing and has had to crock the throttle just a bit. Let's check in with Gary Gerould for some more problems.
Well, we heard earlier about the fact that Scott Goodyear had lost his headrest, so they've gone to the backup car. They've pulled this headrest out. The problem was that a brace underneath here broke. Now they've taped this up in kind of jury-rig fashion. They hope that they'll be able to wedge this in and that it will stay with these adhesives so that he can get some comfort for what has to be a very tired neck right now.
And, of course, Scott Goodyear, there it is with everything flapping on the right side of the car. They'll try and get that reconstructed properly. Robbie Gordon, he comes in now, and hopefully they can effect that repair, Jack.
Now, Paul, this will put Robbie Gordon completely out of rotation for pit stops. But that is how bad the buffeting was on Robbie Gordon's helmet. He could not keep his head up. So they elected to come in early. And you can see they are throwing out the tape, and they are now making the change. They're going to wedge with racer's tape a big piece of foam rubber between his helmet and the right side. You can see them working feverishly there, trying to wedge it in. But more importantly than wedging it in, you've got to make sure that it's secure at 230 miles an hour. This tape is only rated to 200 miles an hour. Who knows if this fix is going to work or not?
Remember what Bobby Unser suggested at the start of the show. Every second he sits there is over 235 feet being gobbled up by the other race cars.
335 feet, Paul. And I'll tell you another thing. Robbie Gordon doesn't know if that's going to feel good on the track. It's a terrible time to try to do that.
Well, Robbie Gordon almost spins it coming out. Gary Gerould.
Here's an interesting shot in Emerson Fittipaldi's pits. He's been in and used so many tires, and because the load has changed on the car, they're building up rubber on the rear tires. So the engineers are now scraping that rubber off so that they can reuse the tires. He continues to have problems. He knows he can't win the race. He's just trying to hang in as long as he can to get as many points as he can.
Now, let me tell you, anybody that thinks Robbie Gordon is a wimp because he can't hold his head up for a couple of laps out here should know the man. He is built out of iron, and he's as tough as it comes, and it's a testament to these high banks and the G-forces he pulls. If he can't handle it, nobody can.
These guys are pulling, Sam, no less than 3 Gs through the turns.
Paul Tracy slowing down on the circuit, apparently and obviously in trouble.
Well, Tracy started the day with an outside chance for the championship. He was a little over 20 points behind. He desperately needed a success today. There's Teddy Mayer there in the Penske pits, and this will really set him back with just 6 races to go. After this, he's going to have to win virtually all the races to close the gap on Mansell. Not impossible, but a very bad development.
Saw the crew chief Tim Bumps look up there at Teddy Mayer, and they both kind of shrugged.
If you look at the tires, the front tires on this, it is running slow. They're picking up rubber. Look at the rubber building up on the tires. We watched Tracy coming in. Now, what's happened when you see, look at the rubber build up on it there. When you see the car spinning.
Down here, what's that,
there's
Bobby?
the flood. There's oil coming out. Oil and water, oil or water, or both of them. That looks like water because that's where the radiator is.
I'd say then it isn't a tire problem, and where he stops on the course, it will definitely bring out the yellow flag.
So what's happening to the guys? We see the tires being scraped there. They're scraping off the rubber, so when the guys leave the pits, they don't spin. Obviously, that's what spun Mario out, and you saw Robbie Gordon. You saw Robbie Gordon getting sideways there.
Still haven't decided.